last week we had the news. Oh wait, we didn't. We had the games. We had all the games because it was Gamescom. Fergus, please cut in here because I can't continue this song.
It is more of the same. The entire world has been consumed by Gamescom and its many games announcements.
Well, people, it is lovely to be back with you all this lovely week. As Fergus has just said, it's been Gamescom. It's pretty much been the entertainment sphere for the past week, and we are going into the D23 sphere next week. Obviously, we have the Lord of the Rings of Power coming out this Friday. House of the Dragon has just been released, so we'll probably discuss those a bit later on as in the weeks following as well. But yes, people, welcome back. It's lovely to have you all here again. Obviously, with Gamescom, last week we did the Gamescom opening night, and as we mentioned during the episode recording, it was the fact that the Future Game Show was taking place at the same time we're recording. It was just too much Fergus, wasn't there?
It was. So after the episode, I sat down and watched the entire thing. It was maybe 2 hours-ish long, and it was a marathon to get to the end of just so many trailers, like 2 hours of 1 to 2 to 3 minute trailers with very little breaking them up.
No, it was absolutely insane. Absolutely
so
insane.
many games
in so little time. But to be fair, though, we'll discuss a little bit in the podcast. We do have a bit of breathing room with the release times, which should be okay, which is interesting.
Yeah, there's quite a range of release times here, ranging from quite soon to very, very not soon.
But we'll get into that in a second, people, as we get into the main topic. But obviously, like last week, we will not be doing the news this week. We're actually thinking, myself and Fergus, we discussed it with a few other people as well. We're actually thinking about having maybe 2 episodes a week with the news, with the NMI news, get that Need More Info news, and then also getting that topic as well. We'll actually think about that as we go on a bit, also help with the animation on YouTube as well. When it comes to movie reviews, we may tack onto the news segment. So you may get news in movie reviews, or you may get like a special third episode in the week. We'll figure that as we go on, but those won't be as much. We're trying to figure out game reviews as well, but that will probably take a lot longer to do because you like to have, multiple people play the game to actually get an opinion on that. And with myself being able to crunch out a 60-hour video game and compared to other people who like...
Yeah. It'll take me a week to do 10 hours in a game. I think that's probably minimum to fairly assess a game.
Yeah, and so I like to, unless you're Death Stranding, where it takes you 10 hours to actually start playing the game properly.
Well, yeah.
Exactly. But yes, people, again, as mentioned before, it's lovely to have you back on the podcast this week. Hopefully you all have had a lovely week. The temperature has been much milder in the UK, which has been lovely to feel. I'm feeling better now, mostly better. Still can't fully sleep properly, but we're getting there, so it's the best way to be. So hopefully these shows become more regular. We've also had a little bit of a background discussion. We've plotted out the entire episodes going up for the next 27 weeks, people. We've roughly plotted out the next 27 weeks. And to give you a bit of an insight into what's actually going to go down, the actual topics we're actually, possibly going to cover include stuff like, obviously we have 2023 coming up. That's a given. So we'll probably have our, discussions on like our top list for 2022. I think games will be an interesting one this year because it's been more indie heavy this year than like main title, like AAA heavy, which will be a very interesting discussion to have.
Yeah, I can sort of see why. Like, one guy alone in a bedroom in 2.5 years of lockdown can easily knock out a game, whereas if you've got a team of 500 trying to make a game, that is significantly harder in a lockdown situation.
But yeah, just to give you a little sneak peek of what's coming up, people. And also, people, we'll get into the content bit in a little bit in a minute. But basically, we're going to be getting into stuff like favorite movie soundtracks, game soundtracks. If you have any feedback for that for us, if we can actually play maybe like snippets of audio, please get in contact because I think we might be able to, as long as it's, a bit of a teaser. Because obviously, with reactions, they do play music from TV shows and property. So maybe that's the best way to go about it. We're actually going to be doing a bit of a pitching session, which I'm actually quite interested in. It's basically, if you take a movie, we have all these remakes and reboots coming out. What is a movie that the NMI crew loved, or a TV show that we loved, that deserves a reinvigoration, maybe a reboot, and we're going to pitch it to each other, Dragon's Den style, or the American version, I don't know what you call it, Shark Den, I believe that's it. We're also going to do that for superhero, because obviously we have Black Adam coming out in October. So we're going to do a superhero video pitch episode. Obviously, with the Halloween season, we're going to be getting into that spooky season. We're going to be doing our favorite films and TV shows from Halloween. We do our favorite survival horror games, but what actually we're going to do this year is, because October is only 4 weeks, what we're going to do is the Dark Pictures Anthology Roundup. So basically, with the Dark Pictures, The Devil in Me coming out in November, we've all had the discussion. We're actually going to get a group session together and play the Dark Pictures games, and actually, review each game, like have a mini review for each game and actually rate them. And that will be our closer for the season for October. Going into November, following on from the Black Adam thing, we'll be doing favorite anti-heroes, movie characters which have been overdone. Obviously, my one is Batman. We're also going to be getting into stuff like best TV shows of all time, best and worst of endings to video games, which will be an interesting conversation because there's been some interesting ones. And then we get into, obviously, the Christmas season. Santa's approaching, Rudolph's in the sky, shooting his red laser beam out and distracting all the aeroplanes. We're going to be doing our favorite comfort films, TV shows, video games, because when it gets to the chilly season, you just want to get in and have a bit of comfort in those winter seasons.
Yeah.
And then we're going to round it off, people, for this year with favorite Christmas movies. I think that's a nice, cheery way to end the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And give people some Christmas viewing over the festive season.
Most definitely. And if you go listen to a previous podcast, there's a person on this podcast, Chaz, who watches a Christmas movie that is nothing to do with Christmas, but it does involve a character who's in red and black. So go listen to one of our previous podcasts on that. Going into next year, we'll be doing into stuff like what shows were cancelled, or finished too early, because that's actually going to link back to stuff like the Resident Evil Netflix TV series that was recently cancelled. We called it, which is a bit sad, but again, I think I'm going to actually discuss Resident Evil when we do the TV pitching, because that can be done correctly. And also, what solo Batman or solo villain films from DC or Marvel would we like to see as movies? And then obviously looking ahead to and having our top list for 2022 and then 2023. So people, that is some of the stuff that we're going to be getting into. We got a few more ideas in the works. If you have any topic suggestions, though, we'll get the contact details a bit later on. But yeah, no, Fergus, how do you feel about all those topics?
There is a lot to talk about in all of those subjects, really. Hours and hours of conversation for you coming up. Yeah, no, I'm liking it a lot. There's a lot of recommendations to find out there, I think.
I do want to say, the one I'm actually pretty much looking forward to that I didn't mention just before is favorite content creators.
This will be good. Yes. A good opportunity to bring up VTubers again.
I mean, that's pretty much true. But obviously, during the pandemic, and obviously a lot of people staying inside, and content creators probably had a boom in that regard. A lot of people watching the content film. But
it'll be interesting to talk about the Twitch content creation boom post lockdown. So a year after lockdown, how is everyone doing? What are people doing? Because I know people are evolving into doing actual live IRL stuff, like live Twitch streams from the show floor of their favorite Comic-Con, this sort of stuff. So it'll be an interesting subject to talk about for sure.
Most definitely indeed. And obviously it was myself and Chaz that were actually discussing this in the pub one day. We're having a cheeky little drink. Well, I was having a cheeky little Coke Zero, people. I'm going to specify that before anyone makes a sound clip of that. We were just talking about our favorite content creators and what we'd like to do and actually give back to them, show our appreciation really and give show them our love and actually send you people their way as well, just to show how good they are.
Absolutely.
But yeah, right, people. So obviously as we mentioned before, Gamescom opening night done. We've done it, people. Opening night's done. All the games. Had that out of the way.
Now there's just the rest of the week to talk about.
Yeah, and a week later, to say the least. But yes, people, right. So we are going to be getting into the Future Game Show, and as some of these games actually do sort of come out of the Future Game Show as well. It's some more gameplay footage that was actually shown as well for games I've already seen. We've already discussed last week, but more gameplay footage was shown to actually get a better understanding. We'll have a little bit of a discussion on it as well. Right, people, it's time we get into that main topic, and you love that main topic, people, that sweet sauce, people, that sweet sauce of the main topic. Fergus, shall we begin?
Let's discuss our games.
Right. Well, I'm going to let Fergus take point here as numero uno. Take it away, Fergus.
Okay. I guess first game on the list of things that caught my attention at the Future Games show this year is Hotel Architect. If you listened to our previous Gamescom episode, you'll know that I very much enjoy management sim type games. And it has been a while since I have played a hotel management game. So this has struck me as something quite new and interesting in terms of theme and not necessarily gameplay as such, because it looks kind of like, imagine it's you do the building from The Sims, but it's, hotels instead of a house. And it seems like you have advisor characters, like you're you've got an accountant, a manager, lawyer. The art leaves something to be desired, has been pointed out. It is very
minimal. Well, 3D minimal to a degree.
Yeah, they've not blown the budget on the art, but I don't think that's necessarily a problem, as long as it's, fun, a bit challenging. It sounds like there's quite a larger scope to do stuff within this sim than would normally be readily available on some other sim games. So you can use your accountant, manager, or lawyer to do things like, say, illegal actions. Things like ignore building regulations.
Laundering that money. I don't think it goes quite that far. It's things like cause fires and your lawyer will sweep in and save your ass. I do have to say though, it kind of makes me think like we're getting a Better Call Saul situation going on here. Like that'd be quite funny, to be honest. Like Bob Odenkirk just turns up as your lawyer in this game.
That could be fun. I don't know if that's necessarily what's happening here. Yeah, I hope they do take a lot of liberties to expand the core concept of building a building, managing it, and doing other events. Make it interesting, really. I will, if it's maybe like under a tenner on Steam, I will definitely buy this and give it 5 to 10 hours for sure.
No, to be honest with you, this does look interesting. Like the whole I see what you mean about the art style, like not specifically the actual environments themselves, but the characters. But I think if it goes to show, they're actually trying to put in the effort into the actual mechanics side of the game. The actual character art style, it could be extremely forgiving, to be honest.
Yeah, I hope that's where the energy's gone on this. This is Pathos Interactive, the developer, and Wired Productions publisher. No fixed launch date yet, as far as I can see, but you can add it to your wish list on Steam.
Well, excellent. Thank you very much, Fergus. Thank you.
What do we have as your first pick, Nate?
Right, so this is a game that actually caught my eye because I've been trying to get. I don't know if this is going to be an MMO. I don't know if this is going to be a single player. But basically, this is a game called Rooted. This is going off of Steam. It is a solo. Oh, sorry. Okay, so it's a solo and multiplayer survival game. Explore ancient, overgrown world full of dangers. Salvage, build, craft, hunt, and try to survive alone with your friends in an evolving, fascinating post-apocalyptic environment powered by Unreal Engine 5. Okay. Now, I'm again this is actually a Kickstarter game, so this is interesting to say the least. You can actually develop your camps, improve your living standards. Now, they did have a cheat in this. They had a nice little acoustic guitar play, and the acoustic guitar does have a feel of The Last of Us. I'm not going to lie.
I was going to say, it does look kind of a Last of Us-y.
Yeah. And when if you listen to the Last of Us main theme and then you listen to this game, they've clearly drawn inspiration from the musical from that game. But like, building your camps and improving, I haven't seen too much of the enemies in this game. I believe the enemy is like automated, or like there's like robotic enemies, made of steel and made of flesh. So there's robots in this game that will attack you. Again, just looking at this game, it looks quite interesting, to be honest. And I'm a sucker for a post-apocalypse game. I love me some Days Gone. Again, I'm still frustrated about the casting of that possible movie. But yeah, no, again, like the fact that this is single and multiplayer, I'm hoping they take that into consideration with the actual game itself. I'm wondering how the actual like interaction with NPCs will work out, because if it is single player, there could be like issues with conversations and how narrative of the actual game, the story beats. But if it's multiplayer could be a bit more interesting because it's just basically trying to survive. But yeah, that's my game. That's my number one pick, and we're gonna flip it back to Fergus now. So what's your number two?
At number 2, we have The Chant, a single-player, third-person horror action adventure set on a remote island. Your character basically goes to this remote island, does an ayahuasca retreat, sort of guided psychedelic meditation sort of thing. But it all goes wrong when you accidentally summon lots of evil spirits to the island and have to survive lots of spirits and zombies and skeletons and this sort of thing. It has a lot of so the battle mechanics are, instead of guns and punching and using sticks and what have you, you kind of use spiritual enchantments. So you kind of like do hand gestures and wave dolls to sort of scare the ghosts away. So it's an interesting evolution of how things normally are with this sort of game, which of course with the whole psychedelic thing, there's quite a lot of license for it to be quite weird. And yeah, I'm quite positive that this will be at least an interesting play. This is out quite soon, actually. This is 3rd of November this year, so a couple of months to go, waiting for that. Developer Brass Token, publisher Prime Matter.
I can say I did actually see this trailer, and I did think, will Fergus put there's some magic-y going on and some horror elements. I'm like, this is like you picked A Witch's Tale last week, and that's actually been in discussion with quite a few people, to be honest. Like, some people are really intrigued by that game, and then I saw this trailer and I was like, oh yeah, okay, no, Fergus is probably going to pick this, to be honest. So let's leave that to him.
Yeah, no, there's running away is also a major mechanic of this game. You don't have to defeat the enemy to progress, which again has been quite a core thing in games since forever. So again, people beginning to evolve games. It's great. It's great to see. It's great to see. It's games like this that kind of like don't stop things becoming stale, I guess it's the best way to put it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, man. I definitely agree. Right. Hopping along to my number 2, or just my next pick, is the game called Teslagrad 2. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I never played Teslagrad 1, but I'm probably actually going to go back and play it now. So just going off the Steam page, you play as Lumina, a young Teslamancer, finds herself stranded after her airship crashes in Virmheim, a remote and treacherous land to the north. Embark on a dangerous adventure, exploring a gigantic abandoned tower looming over a fjord-side valley on a quest to get Lumina home and back to her family. Now, this is very interesting because it's mixing, going off the page here. This is a Metroidvania style game. I think after the release of the Ori series, I've become really into these types of games now. I'm really gonna have a bigger appreciation for them. But the fact this is a game set in Scandinavian influence, a grandiose steampunk meets Norse adventure, accompanied by orchestral soundtrack, inspired by Nordic folk tones and electronic tracks, right up my alley. To be honest, this seems very interesting to me. And I actually did a game jam, sort of like not dissimilar to this. We did basically a game about like playing electronic music and fighting Norse gods and everything. And I just saw this and I was like, oh, steampunk, electronic music. Oh, I'm down for this. And again, like the trailer looks very interesting to me. The frame rate isn't completely smooth. It has like this, like, I want to say, it's weird to say, but Into the Spider-Verse style animation. Like it's like every second frame is missing. So it has like that, had that interesting design to it. But again, really look interested to see how this plays out. I'm actually going to go back and play the first game, I think, to see how this plays out. This actually comes out spring 2023. It's by Rain Games and Modus Game. So it's developed by Rain Games and publisher Modus Games. I'm very intrigued to see how this plays out. Again, like, epic boss battles, master fluid motion. The actual art style looks really fun. Gravity defying as well. Definitely check this out, people, if you've got an interest in it. And it obviously doesn't take a lot to run. Also, obviously, with the idea of possibly getting a Steam Deck in the future, I think this would be a nice little game to play on the Steam Deck. So yeah, that's my number 2. And because myself and Fergus share the screens we're using on Discord, I'm just going to say this now, that our number 3s are the same.
Yes, this is quite a game. Another Metroidvania at the last case of Benedict Fox. This is developer Plot Twist, publisher Rogue Games Inc. So this is more of an action adventure mystery solving Metroidvania where you flip between 2 parallel worlds. And, you collect clues from one parallel world, flip back to the other, you can solve and open the door in the next one. So there's some interesting puzzle solving. It looks like it's quite an interesting world as well. Very
HP Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Cthulhu
definitely.
inspired, yeah.
There's just a lot of interesting things here, like the creature design, the world design. I think the story is going to be quite interesting. There is the odd tentacle.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm really not going to say anything there, to be honest. Just go listen to our VTuber episode. That's all I'm going to say.
There's not that many. No.
Disappointed. Lack of tentacle, down a rating.
Lack of tentacles. No, it seems very interesting. Planned to release some point in 2023. Currently unknown, but you can wish list on Steam.
Yeah, again, like I'm very interested in this. Like, just going off the same page here, you can actually have like demon powers and like fight cultists and monsters. I believe this is actually inspired by H.P. Lovecraft and the Cthulhu like aspect. It's a fantastical Lovecraftian Metroidvania. So yeah, it is that. So yeah, it's definitely inspired by that. The art style just really gets me, to be honest. Like I'm loving the environments in this game. The main character themselves looks very white man, like that era of time, because it is like early 20th century. But the actual the actual design looks really, really fun and extremely visually appealing, and so distinct between each level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the set design is going to do quite a lot of the work with the storytelling. I think the overworld and underworlds look very distinctly different.
No, I definitely agree. And that's very interesting, to be honest, that we actually picked this as our same game each as well, which is pretty cool, to be honest.
Watch this space for this game, I suspect.
Yeah, so I guess what we'll do now is we'll take a little break. So join us after the break. We'll go listen to a lovely ad break for Confused Llama, A Spy's Tale by the lovely James in our podcast. And definitely go purchase that on Amazon Kindle. But join us after the break as we return to discuss our number 2, number 1, and our overall roundup of Gamescom and how we actually feel about the show, and what are actually hopes going into the future for video game conferences for the rest of this year. So yeah, join us after the break.
An illegal spy agency discovers the theft of a prototype weapon. Derek, codename Confused Llama, and his handler, Frank, codename Majestic Vole, investigate the theft. A naive man with fanciful notions, Derek sets out on his inept journey to reclaim the weapon from villainous hands, unaware of the hidden tale following him. Enter the world of Confused Llama, A Spy's Tale, a short comedic spy thriller available on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
And welcome back, people. Obviously, hopefully you enjoyed that little lovely animatic if you're listening to the YouTube version of the show or watching the YouTube version of the show with Doug in a lovely smoking jacket, speaking of the James's book. So, people, we are going to get to our number 2s now because we've just jointly did our number 3s, which is actually quite fun, to be honest. We're going to jump back to Fergus now for his number 2. Fergus, what is your number 2?
At number 2, we have Floodland. So, society survival world building game where you are in a world where the ice caps have melted due to climate change. So, land is at a premium. There is a lot of water. Civilization is, of course, collapsed. So, modern technologies, I guess, scarce. So, again, quite into the management sim sort of games. This is an interesting evolution of that because it's more post-apocalyptic survival management sim, which again is not something I've played much of. I don't think. I'd say Frostpunk would probably be similar. I didn't play that myself, but I think it is throwing off similar vibes to that. Yeah, can you lead humanity in a new era of everything being flooded?
Yeah.
It is coming out 15th of November, so again, not that long to wait for this one. You might have seen it at previous future game shows. I feel like I've seen this trailer, not this trailer, or similar trailers before.
I'll be biding my time for God of War a few days later in that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, fair enough. This one will probably take some sitting down and puzzling over. This is Vile Monarch developer and Raven's Court publisher. Yeah, entirely single player, so you can't bring your friends to the apocalypse. But so it was probably going to be an interesting story/experience.
Awesome sauce. Yeah, it looks very fun. It looks very interesting, to be honest. It looks quite visually bad. And the water looks great. Like the water graphics look great. But the light.
Yeah, graphically it's not too bad. Yeah, the environment looks good. The buildings are a bit shabby, but I mean they are wooden tents, so of course they would. Maybe there'll be some evolution going forwards in that respect, but yeah, it's a game with a strong message. I think it's like stop burning your fossil fuels, otherwise this is basically what we're going to end up like. I think it's kind of
We're gonna have Kevin Costner in the sequel to this game.
Potentially. I would suspect it would make a good film, to be honest. Like a character living in this sort of society.
I mean, it would be Waterworld, so this is just the game was just I was about to say because I was wondering when I mentioned Kevin Costner, I was like, please look at the reference. I was like, oh okay, no, basically, the world is like the ice caps are melted and like the entire world is just there's no land anymore at all.
Right.
It's
floating around on rafts and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much like raft cities and everything, and that's pretty much it, to be honest. But no, again, this just looks very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, of course, wishlist on Steam.
So awesome sauce. Right, people. We're going to go to my number 2 now, or one of my next ones, basically. So, obviously, as we mentioned in the intro, we're going to be talking about the Dark Pictures Anthology as we go into October, for the end of October, for Halloween! Brooklyn Nine-Nine, people, if you know, that's for sure. So, my next game is The Devil in Me. I've actually been reading into this game a bit more. IGN actually did a nice, lovely news article. Go check that out. It's IGN. Just search for IGN. The Devil in Me lurks in the shadows of Resident Evil Gamescom 2022. It's a lovely written article. I've only just realized that this game is actually based on a true life horror story. It's based on the serial killer H.H. Holmes. Do you know H.H. Holmes, Fergus?
I don't think I do, no.
Well, this is kind of fucked up because H.H. Holmes. Have you ever heard of the hotel at the World Trade Fair in the 1870s?
No.
So H.H. Holmes is a serial killer from the 1800s who killed a lot of people. So he confessed to 27 murders.
Gosh.
Basically, he built a hotel in Chicago for the Chicago World's Fair, and he had a lot of contractors come in to build these specific rooms. He hired loads of different contractors to build these rooms out, but some of them didn't have staircases to places that didn't end. Like there were like rooms that didn't have any doors that leave them, like rooms that just basically it was a horror house. And he'd have guests come over and he'd kill them in the house.
Okay.
This is a creepy narrative. And
Yeah.
the devil in me is going to follow on from that about a group of documentary filmmakers receive a mysterious call inviting them to a modern day replica of that murder castle. But upon arrival, they discover they're being watched and even manipulated until there's much more at stake than their ratings. I'm sorry, but if I get invited to a replica of the murder castle, I'm going to politely decline or take armed guards with me because I am not going into that, especially a mysterious call.
Yeah, you should know what you're walking into, really.
Exactly. Now, I was listening to a previous the IGN Games podcast about this. The IGN UK podcast, reading news articles about this. They're actually updating the game mechanics a little bit in this game. So you're actually going to be able to run in this game now, run, jump, and climb, which you weren't able to do in previous games. If it adds a nice little added element to the game. Also, characters will have specific traits for them. And these traits will affect the actual outcome of the game. So deciding on which characters you kill in the game will affect the outcome, which I think is very interesting because you don't know what's going to happen later on. So do you sacrifice this character early on, or do you let them survive and there's going to be a hindrance?
Yeah. The all of the games are kind of like that, aren't they? There's quite a few different endings going on.
I think the fact that they've added traits to the characters now, because in previous games it was just basically characters that you wanted to live or die, basically. Whereas this one is adding more detailed mechanics within there, which I think's very interesting, to be honest. Also, the whole being able to run over and jump over stuff now actually gives it a bit more fluidity and also more immersion. There's actually an inventory system now. Going off of the trailer here, more puzzles, new gameplay challenges. I'm interested about the cast. I don't know too much about the cast of this game because I know they like to definitely bring in characters into this, some high quality actors into these. Again, I'm very interested to see how this plays out. People, obviously, we're gonna be playing and reviewing this as probably in November. So I'll be playing God of War and we'll be playing this together. We'll actually do the roundup of the actual pictures. So this will be separate to the other games. What we will do is we will review the other titles. And then we'll play this game, have a review for it, and then we'll have a roundup afterwards. I believe that's the best way to go. Also, This is the fourth game in the series, and it's the season 1 finale for this entire Dark Pictures anthology. And we've got about, I believe, 3-4 more games coming out. But this is from Supermassive Games and published by Bandai Namco. So they're definitely getting around with their games. So yeah, that was my number 2, I would say, normal number 2. But I'm going to hand it back to you now, Fergus. What is your number 1?
At number 1 is Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. So this is an open world RPG full of lots of complex quests, choice based RPG. So you'll be able to make friends with characters and they'll stick with you and this sort of thing. This is quite an early development now. So the footage they've offered at the Future Game Show is pre-alpha. And it does look pre-alpha. I'm hoping that things evolve considerably in terms of, animation, fighting, this sort of thing. But overall, it does look very good. It's giving off the same sort of vibes as Senua. So I think it has the potential to be a similar sort of game. I don't think it's not quite got the same level of, hard-hitting impact story going straight into it with the whole we're going to replicate Psychosis sort of thing, but it's the same. If you've ever played it, you'll know what I mean. It's similar in theming, definitely. It's also a board game that's currently on Kickstarter, which is the first thing that comes up when you Google it. So keep digging for this one, especially on Steam. You'll find it on Steam. Yeah, no, it is epic dark fantasy. King Arthur is dead. All the myths and legends are falling. Humans living in Avalon are desperately trying to find new ways to live and things to believe in. Plague of the Red Death is sweeping the nation. Lots of weirdness. Is zombies, people randomly merging with their horses. Not a game glitch. It's actually part of the story. People do die because they get covered in weirdness and they merge with their horse. It's going to be an interesting ride with lots of Senua tagged on. I think it's got quite a long way to go in terms of production. I mean, it's not even guaranteeing it's coming out in 2023 on Steam, but you can add it to your wish list. This is Awaken Realms digital developer and Awaken Realms publisher, so it looks like it was self-published. Yeah, definitely one worth checking out, I think.
Again, yeah, I'm looking at this. You give me some Arthurian lore, and I'm wanting to like. I'm surprised there's not a lot of games. Like, when you think of video games, the King Arthur time period in like fiction or British history isn't hugely like delved into a lot, and I feel that's like kind of wasted.
Yeah, there's quite a rich mythology there, but it's kind of been lent to so many other mythologies now, like the whole wizards and knights and stuff, that I think people have forgotten to actually do the original version. Somewhat.
I mean, like, you don't even have to do like, obviously, this game is set after King Arthur. It's about the after effects of that, and we had that movie The Green Knight with Dev Patel, which is about it's not about King Arthur, it's about Gawain. It's about certain characters within that, and I'm actually just intrigued, like, because I believe there was an XCOM style game that came out in the last couple of years that was actually based around the King Arthur narrative. The fact that you went on about like, this is an open world RPG and it has Senua vibes and it is first person. I'm down. I'm definitely down for that. Wondering how this will play out, like how detailed the actual story will be, like in regards to like, for this type of game, if it's like an open world RPG, I want to be invested in the characters, especially, if we're going to be doing something, outside of that, like outside of it's going to be the King Arthur story. But we'll see how it plays out. So yeah, looking at so that's a King Arthur Conquest. So it's currently priced at $15.99.
So I'm looking at this as well. So Conquest seems to be some sort of prequel, which looks to be somewhat card based, as far as I can see. I'm not sure how this fits it. So card based, turn-based strategy.
It's a roguelike.
Combat, deck building card game, RPG, dark fantasy. So I think they're basically doing the same game without the deck building card game as a front and center. I might play more, not like you're going to go off and play Gwent or something, but more back end mechanics sort of stuff. So they are coming out this running basically, and as you say, you can buy it for £15 now if you want to kind of check out their previous works. Very positive reviews on Steam, which is always good.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed. Right. Well, I guess I'll have to go along to my number one now, which is
what have we got?
I want to talk about so we're going to get into a little bit of something different now. I want to talk about a couple of games. My number one's going to be split because it's gameplay for two games. So, do you have a number one first? Should we go to your number one first, Fergus? Or was this your number one? Or my number?
Well, no, I just did. Mine was Tainted Grail.
Right. Okay. So, we're going to talk about. I don't know if you saw the gameplay for these, Fergus. Lies of P and Forspoken.
I saw Lies of P. I'm not sure about Forspoken.
So let's start with Lies of P.
This is Pinocchio. Steampunk Pinocchio.
Again, like I'm loving the art style for this game so much. I'm really intrigued by the art design and everything. I
did not get that he was Pinocchio by watching this trailer.
Yeah, a lot of people have agreed that the title isn't great. Why not call it The Secrets of Pinocchio or Pinocchio's Lies?
Has someone copyrighted the word Pinocchio?
I mean, I don't know if Pinocchio is public domain because
I think the original story would be. But
that would mean that anything Pinocchio can be like put into like different narratives.
Maybe.
Again, I'm looking at the UI for the game. It looks very, very clean. So I'm very, very happy behind this, and obviously adding the steampunk elements to the actual built versions part of Pinocchio. I think it's actually great to do this. But yeah, no, there was a 12 minutes of gameplay released from Gamescom. There's the video on IGN that's currently up there. We're watching right now. This is a roguelike, Bloodborne inspired Souls-like game. That's my concern, is that I'm loving the art style, but am I going to be able to play this game?
It's true of so many Souls-like games. Like if it was a standard RPG, I would play the hell out of it. But because it's it's a boss, and your boss like sneezes and you die. It's like, I haven't got time for that. I will actually progress in my games. Thanks.
I mean,
So-
yeah, just looking at the gameplay here, and like, when it comes to just drawing people into you and everything, and pulling that, you get over here, like, Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. But this does go to the question again, like, you're doing such an inventive, like, narrative style for this video game, but you are restricting people from playing it.
We have an episode on this, don't we?
We do. Accessibility, and having a more more accessibility mode, a more easy mode, not easy modes per se in video games like Souls-like games. Because when we did our Elden Ring special, because again, Elden Ring has found that really, really interesting middle mark of being easy enough to actually get into, but difficult enough for a Souls-like game that you can improve over time. Whereas because this appears more linear, like a classic Souls-like game, I think it's gonna add a really difficult element. I think maybe if they add a lot more save points, like if they have save points to the game, that'd be good to have. But with these types of games, it's probably not going to happen. Maybe
Wait for
it
the
will.
movie.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair though, if you upgrade your character as you go through, I'm wondering how that will play into it. But again, like, loving the design for this game, loving the narrative idea for this game. As mentioned in last week's episode, the lying mechanic will affect choices later in the game, which I think is very interesting. But just really slightly disappointed it is a Souls-like game. If they could find a nice balance for this game, I'd love that, to be honest. But it's obviously, as people will say, if it's not for us, just don't play it. But again, I think it would be really interesting if they could try and find a nice balance here. Right. The other one we're going to talk about now, unfortunately, people, we're not going to be able to play the audio for this game, but this is Forspoken. We briefly mentioned it in the past, but it's a game been developed by Luminous Productions, publisher Square Enix, composer Bear McCreary. This has been developed on the Luminous engine. I thought it was Unreal Engine 5 before, but that isn't true. Basically, it's about Frey Holland, played by Ella Balinski, who actually, nice little fun link here. She was the lead actress in the recently cancelled Resident Evil TV series. Yay!
Well, she's got something going.
I mean, this is where we're about to get into. So she's transported from New York to the fantasy world of Etheria, and she has to use the magical powers to survive in that world under the tyrannical rule of the Tantus. Again, I'm a bit concerned with this game. Like, loving the actual art style. Like, I think it's very visually appealing, very visually interesting. Like, she has a bracelet that talks to her, but it has if you actually listen to the audio in this game, it has a very, like, this person speaks, this person speaks, this person speaks, this person speaks. Like,
that can really ruin a game. Bad dialogue is, especially if you're going for RPG-ish. Like, it's a big thing in world immersion, being able to naturally talk to your NPCs.
I mean, there have been a few podcasters that have actually watched this footage and actually made the same comment. Like, the voice acting seems a bit stiff, which is a bit concerning for a world you're trying to become engrossed by. It's a bit, it could be a bit stiff. Again, like, I'm loving the actual visual aspect of the game, the actual, like, travel mechanics of the, the actual travel style, like the fact that there's actually, like, different ways to actually traverse in this game as well. Like, there's different powers in this game which allows you to traverse in different ways. Loving the actual I want to say magic, in this game. Like, the actual combat itself looks very visually appealing. And obviously, PlayStation are putting a lot into this game, coming out in January now. It was pushed back to January 24th. And no doubt the audio will be stunning because Bear McCreary is doing the audio for this game. And his, that man has done so much great audio, from Battlestar Galactica to, the recent Rings of Power TV show coming on. He's done God of War. He's done so much. So no doubt the audio is going to be great for this game. And again, like, just going by the traversal mechanics in this game, it looks very, very interesting. But my concern is the dialogue, because I want to be extremely immersed in this world. My concern is, will that be the deciding factor to actually bring it down a few points?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I say I've not seen this trailer before, but it does look very interesting. Lots of stylish action, and as you say, the magic does look quite interesting. There's quite a lot of battling, but these trailers do tend to focus very much on the action, no matter what the game type is. So that could be misleading in terms of like, is it very RPG-y or is it more let's fight?
So this game is, just to clarify, I believe it is an RPG. I believe. Well, I'm not going to confirm. I'm going off of Steam here, or trying to read all the information to people. But it's classified as a narrative-driven adventure in an open-world game world format. I'm presuming it's an RPG because there is upgrade mechanics to the game. Like, so I'm presuming that is the case. And this is it is the company was originally assembled from employees working on Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so again, like, wondering how this is going to play out. Again, the actual writing of the game could be really stunning. It could just be the actual, how it's conveyed to the player. And actually, it has the bearded lady from Keela Settle from The Great Showman, who's the armorer or the archivist in this game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who's on screen right now. And also Janina Gavanka, who's obviously, from the recent Star Wars Battlefront series. She's also in Arrow and a few other things. But again, she's going to be in Borderlands, the film. Yeah. But again, like, I'm really hoping this game does really well, because it was pushed back twice now. So it was supposed to originally release in May of this year. It was pushed back to October, but now it's been pushed back till January. Now, they have said that the game is pretty much done. It's just, polishing it now, basically, which hopefully that's the case if we don't get huge patches upon release. But again, I'm really looking forward to this game. Hopefully, hopefully it plays out really well. Loving the traversal mechanics in this game. I think that looks stunning.
It looks like it'll be fun to play. Yeah,
again, there's not many other games that can give you great traversal mechanics. The first one in my eyes was probably what was that game where you were infected by a virus?
I was going to say Mirror's Edge. I don't think that's the one you're thinking of.
No, what was the game? It doesn't matter, people. If you know the game, it had a sequel come out, but Spider-Man is another game I'm thinking of. I love the fact they introduced fast travel into that game. Everyone was like, I'm just going to web swing across. And then obviously you had Mirror's Edge for like first person running, and Dying Light for, the first person mechanics of zombie combat as well. If this game can actually pull that off in regards to that sort of mechanics, maybe that'll be a saving grace. The actual mechanics itself.
Yeah, I think the Final Fantasy fans will have a field day with this. And if the dialogue is bad, it'll get memed to hell. And that'll probably, But with such a good cast, I've got reasonable hopes for, some of the characters at least.
Again, when it comes to actually, the actual game itself, I've really got high hopes for this. Really looking forward to it. Hopefully it plays out well. But yeah, no, that's my final game in which I wanted to discuss.
Yeah, no,
I'm
absolutely.
glad we did. Yeah. Again, just final thought. Yeah, again, the traversal mechanics look really great. Just going by the footage.
Yeah, no.
But
absolutely.
Right, Fergus.
Hello.
That is our games from so many games.
So many games. We've had 2 episodes full of games.
And yeah,
so good.
So right.
Yeah.
Let's have a roundup, shall we?
Yes.
How did you feel this Gamescom went to previous Gamescom, or just gaming events in general?
So I've seen clips from the show floor, like people in real life attending. Finally, once again, a game show. I think a lot of fun was had. A lot of people are very hyped for a lot of games, especially some of the ones we've included on our list, and some we haven't. Because there are so many games. Games are now reaching such a wide audience, which is good to see, because there are still people out there who think games are for, people who lock themselves alone in their rooms. But we are now emerging as the next great art form, I think, and people are cottoning on and finding their franchise out there. Definitely. Overall, very good. Very encouraged to see the way the games industry is going in general. There is a lot of games. There's a lot of competition from a lot of different places in the world as well, covering a lot of different cultures. So you've got the American and British games, you've got the Asian games, you've got the Eastern European games, you've got games being made in South America now, which again, like 5 years before, was just not the case in the games industry. So a wide range of content available. Some people are really following trends, but that's how these things go. Very encouraged. Everything's great. So many games, but there's 7 billion people in the world, so it's not all for us.
Not at all. But for myself, I'm intrigued by this Gamescom because it seems to have been a case of a lot more indie developers. It was a lot more indie developers. It's like we didn't have a lot of AAA titles revealed this Gamescom.
Yeah, there's a lot of smaller teams out there who have done quite well over the past couple of years to put out very good games.
I think when it comes to the Video Game Awards in December, that will be an interesting show. I think that's because obviously, we have a lot of trailers that go on during that Games Awards show. I think that's when we'll have a lot of the announcements, the big announcements. And obviously we have the Ubisoft Forward on September 10th. We have the D23 gaming event on September 9th. And I'm still hoping PlayStation have some sort of showcase because, again, as mentioned in the last episode, it was very light on Sony games. Like outside of God of War this year, I can't really think of many games, first party, or even third party outside of Gotham Knights, which is like 2-3 weeks before God of War, that's coming out this year. And obviously Forspoken is coming out January. So that's, Gotham Knights October, God of War November. But when it comes to the Christmas season, and I believe we have a new the Modern Warfare remake coming out in November, Christmas time. But there's not many big Christmas titles.
Yeah, there's what will be this year's number one Christmas blockbuster game is currently unknown. Which, considering we've got by the end of August, so 4 months ish.
I mean, the thing is though, Elden Ring is the number one game for everyone at the moment.
Just deleted all games. Yeah, I mean.
I felt something for Horizon.
Or just any game that released this year, really.
well, Horizon came out. The first Horizon came out at the same time as Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And then Horizon, the sequel, comes out around the same time as Elden Ring. It's
bad timing.
Can you just get a break? And then God of War as well. So I think the deciding factor this year is going to be God of War and Elden Ring. Those will be the 2 games, in my opinion. I think.
Yeah,
going at it for the title.
I would be surprised if at the Game Awards, Elden Ring doesn't basically clean sweep the board.
I think God of War. I think it will be because it'll be. It's January. It's January, so it'll be. I think God of War will be, if they could pull off the same narrative they did for the first one. I think God of War can really give Elden Ring a run for its money. To be honest, because again, Elden Ring isn't for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
That game is literally not built for loads of people to play. Whereas God of War has difficulty levels that you could, I believe it has difficulty levels. You could go into that game, and you can.
Do you need to have played previous Gods of War to get the story?
You can. So they actually did a recent with Felicia Day. They did a 6-minute video wrap up of the first game to actually give you the entire narrative of the game, which I thought was very smart to do. Because I know, loads of video games do this now where they have a previously on this game. So you actually catch up with it. But I think I played the first God of War ever created. I did not like it in the slightest. I just went into, I understood the story going, I basically just read the Wikipedia for the previous Greek narratives. And I just went into God of War, the Norse game.
Yeah.
And I just played it. I just loved it. Also, a big deciding factor for this is this is the final game in this narrative.
Right.
It's only 2 games, which isn't hugely done a lot in video games. It's usually 3. So the fact that, this is called God of War Ragnarok, This is why I think it's like all out. It's all, no holds barred.
Yeah,
And it'll be
that'd be great. But where does the franchise go? I assume to Boy, whoever Boy is.
I won't spoil it, but that's actually very good. That is a very good question for another podcast down the line, to be honest. It can go to different time periods, and that does actually play into the first. I don't want to say reboot or remake because it's just continuation of the story, but the God of War 2018 does mention other time periods. Now it could continue on into like going into, I don't know, the medieval period, which would be very interesting. But how do you play? Because gods pretty much disappeared after that point. Okay. Let me rephrase that. Deities, multiple
like
gods
your Greek,
disappeared.
Roman. I guess you could do Egypt. Egypt would be healthy for that.
But this is set after, because this is Norse.
Yeah.
So
travels back in time. I don't know.
I mean, could be the way to be. But again, that'll be the deciding factor of the Video Game Awards, people. Again, I'm just hoping we get to see more of what Sony's doing. I'm interested by the Ubisoft one because I know Assassin's Creed had some possible leaks come out. We won't go into that because we don't like to discuss leaks too much on this podcast. But obviously, they're working on the future of Assassin's Creed, and there is a rumor of an AC1 remake, which I did find Assassin's Creed 1 really interesting. It was more of a a leaping pad for Assassin's Creed 2, which was pretty much loved by everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors about what's happening with that franchise. I think it is one to keep an eye on.
I'd love a future game where then it turns back to time travel and then just loops back. I'd love that.
Occupied Mars Assassin's Creed, where you have to jump off in spacesuits.
Mate, honestly, I'm surprised they've never done a present-day Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is they're trying to be historical, but I mean,
just do separate titles. Different development teams. That's probably the best way to go. I think that's one perspective I have. People, one perspective I have.
They'll get there one day. They're never going to start making Assassin's Creed, are they?
Oh no, not in the slightest, not in the slightest. But yeah, people. So, final thoughts of Gamescom. Loved the show. Loved all the games that were announced. A bit apprehensive for some of the titles that we spoke about. Really looking forward to seeing what's coming up with the game development titles in the future. Next week, we're going back to the different format. Next week's topic, we're most likely going to do either movie franchises that should discontinue, or favorite movie soundtracks, content creators, or game soundtracks. Basically, we do a bulk amount of topics for each month, and we decide what we're going to do at that point, and we try to link them to what's coming up. But yeah, people, loved Gamescom, loving what's going to come up. Fergus giving his final thoughts. That is it, people. Oh, sorry.
No, as I was just going to say, it's been great. It's been great.
Right, and that is the final verdict on Gamescom, people, from Fergus. It's been great. It's been great.
Yeah,
that is the final verdict. Okay, people, that is it. It is now time for the outro. If you want to get in contact with any questions, queries, or compliments, please feel free to email us at NMIpodcast@outlook.com. That's NMIpodcast@outlook.com. We've had loads of games coming out from Gamescom that we haven't mentioned. What are some of the games that you loved that we didn't discuss? Or maybe you've got some, negative thoughts of Gamescom that you'd like mentioned, and we can have a little discussion on that from the email. Or, some games that we didn't mention that you loved that we never mentioned that you want us to talk about. We could do it. We can have a nice little reading section for you, the people. So again, people, if you want to get in contact with any questions, queries, compliments, insults towards the crew here, we'll take them. We'll laugh them off. Please feel free to email us at NMIpodcast@outlook.com. That's NMIpodcast@outlook.com. Or tweet us at NMIcast on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us on those social channels there by searching at NMIcast. I've been your host, Nate. I want to thank Fergus for joining me again today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure as always.
Right, people. It's time to now end the show. We will see you next week. And remember, people, we're possibly going to be doing 2 episodes in the future, a lovely news episode and a lovely topics episode. Please give your feedback, as mentioned in the contact section. So give us our feedback on that. Right, people. I will see you next week. Fergus will see you in the future. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.